You are listening to 600 Second Saga. Today's feature is When Wind Catches by Tori V. Rainn. Bent and broken spiral stairs led to the roof, a place to jump and fly. Those were the kinds of things possible in illusions, when they were in Bassett's control, that is. His duty as a purger would have to wait. First, he needed to find her, the Shadow Girl. She was the only one who made his dream of flying possible. The way this illusion was resisting, Bassett half expected Shadow Girl to spring out and weld the hatch shut. She always preferred to make things difficult. It was hard to believe all this bad energy came in the form of one girl. But he needed that bad energy. He glanced at the bottomless void and cursed. Of course she would put that there, to remind him of the wings he lacked. Time to leave. There was nothing left to salvage in this desolation. The flapping curtains called from behind him. There was an escape whenever he desired to leave. He passed through the silk sheets, back to the wizard's loft, where Silas mumbled unfamiliar words behind a book. Pages Bassett didn't understand boiled in pots beside more towers of books. A purger never applied what was written on these papers. No way. He got the less abstract job of draining the bad discharge from the illusions, while the wizard practiced his craft. Sure, Silas could purge his own mess if he wanted to, but he had decided it was beneath him, and time-consuming. "Ready?" Silas huffed and tore another piece of paper, tossing it into a pot. Bassett nodded and tucked his thumbs under his suspenders. The curtains flapped as if a storm blew through the yellow-lit study room. The wizard winked the go-ahead signal. Grinning, Bassett pulled back the drapes and stepped through. A mirror version of Silas's workroom stared back at him. With Silas gone, Bassett turned and gazed at the hefty windows. To jump and fly, all he had to do was unlock one. But the price of wings required Shadow Girl was restrained in his grasp, often more difficult than he liked. A few times he managed to catch her. Each time she cried and begged for her freedom. He never listened, and was busy molding her until she shaped into a strong pair of wings, ones that could lift him off his feet in one swift movement. Oh, how he missed the wind splashing against his face, drowning out his pain with power of flight. He cursed. Wings were better than any money the wizard could offer. He had to find her. A dark silhouette sat on the bookshelves, her feet dangling. A toy figure, really. The shadow giggled, and one by one, dark bird-like apparitions rose above, like shadows breaking free in the loft. Higher they flapped. One dove and hooked its talon into the back of his shirt, ripping it off his body. The longer he tolerated her foolishness, the more she gained control over the illusion. The girl laughed and said, "Try flying now." She darted off the shelf and bolted under the fish tank, sculpted as a massive swan, spreading its wings back with chest puffed. Ugh, the way the illusion kept spitting discharge in the form of a girl almost made him hate them in reality. Lousy tricksters. Bassett crouched, and crawling on all fours, shoved his hand between the swan's feet. "Come here," he snapped. When he tried to scoop her up in his palms, she growled. She grabbed at the rose thorn strapped to her hip and stabbed his finger. He roared, glancing at the splinter stuck in his skin. "Do as I say!" She should be grateful he did not strangle her like he was supposed to. The curtains did their frantic dance, the way they always did when time was escaping. He turned and spread the material to walk through them. Scratching his head, Silas flipped a page in his book. Heat filled the boy's chest. "Stop yanking me early!" Silas chuckled. "You forget your place, boy. It doesn't take that long to do your job." Whatever, though he was right. Killing Shadow Girl took little effort compared to keeping her alive for his personal gain. Wind caught the curtains and jerked them about. This would be it. He could feel it. Bassett dashed through the drapes. A lake. Ah, yes, he remembered this one. It was as close to flying as he would ever get. A sense of floating always did wonders. Like pain pills, but flying was better. More numbing. Saying he was addicted was an understatement. Bassett slipped off his boots and garments, arms spread over his head. He dove in, cutting through the water like a snake. When he surfaced, he rested on his back, allowing the water to carry him across in a distance. His anguish went limp. Peace. He opened his eyes, but it wasn't enough to exhaust the sorrow that poisoned him. He needed to fly, not float aimlessly. The wind carried a faint giggle. A chill swept over him. Rumbling below sent vibrations through the water. The pointy top of a lighthouse ascended, swallowing him inside through an opening of one of the glass doors. Feet tumbling over his head, spiral railings circled him. He splashed and kicked, but there was no exit. Panic flooded him as the lighthouse continued to extend taller and taller. The force pulled him to the bottom of the stairs. His lungs screamed for air. No longer toy-sized, Shadow Girl swam beside him, winking over her shoulder. "I will crush you," floated beside her on a banner in red. Bassett wanted to shout at her, to smash her head. His heart sank as the walls were unmistakably contracting toward him. Using the railings, the girl pushed off and spread her arms toward the watchroom. Her blinding light piercing the murky water was spinning out of control. Near the rocky floor, the curtains swam, as if trying to float toward the surface. Bassett ignored their "return now" urgency. He kicked and paddled toward the girl, reaching up for her foot. A soft heel filled his hand and he squeezed it. To stop the madness, the only option was to drown her, but he couldn't do it, not when he could claim her and fly out of this snare. Her free foot slammed into his head, tearing his grasp away. A cloud of blood circled his nose. No, she ruined everything. A wild force yanked at his legs, sucking him back down and through the drapes. Silas crossed the study room, with arms folded over his chest. "Tomorrow, I want you to bring your sister." "What? Why?" "Because a new purger position is available." This was When Wind Catches by Tori V. Rainn. Tori resides in Texas, where she collects knives or anything sharp and pretends to be a ninja. She's a music junkie, loves video games, a member of the ACFW, and a popcorn addict. She's currently editing a completed fantasy that she's darn proud of. Well, at least until she goes back and rereads it. Other ongoing projects include another fantasy, a paranormal novella boiling under her hot fingers, and various short stories. Tori writes YA fantasy, horror, sci-fi, paranormal, and speculative, and is always open to branching out to different types of stories, wherever the wind takes her. She's been on this amusing writing journey for nearly 7 years, leading to 2 publications, a children's story, The Unseen, featured in the Caterpillar magazine, and a small story won in a contest, Pheoclex. Find more on Google Plus or Pinterest. Check our show notes for links. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.